Hi, Aveen Doyle here, the soul coach and intuitive counselor. Welcome to my channel. I'm always being asked, what is the fifth dimension? What is this 5D that so many intuitives talk about, that my healer or my meditation teacher is talking about? So the best way to describe fifth dimension is to first look at the dimensions leading up to the fifth. So for the first dimension, we have source, and it's just a pure consciousness. It's the love vibration. It's what we call the God force, source, God. People have different names for it, okay? But it's the all is one is all energy. And in that first dimension, there is everything and nothing. And in that emptiness, in that nothingness, is everything. Because when there is nothing, there is the potential for everything. So bear with me, okay? It's hard to put these dimensions into language, but I'll do my best. So in the first dimension, in that nothingness where there is everything, because think about it, in order for there to be a creative force, there has to be an empty bowl. Like if you're going to make a cake, if you're going to bake a lovely cake, you have to have an empty bowl to contain what you're going to put in, okay? And in spiritual terms, we will also refer to this first dimension as the void. And when I do my technique of healing with a client, I will bring them through the layers and layers of their consciousness, of their energy in their body, in their soul, in their spirit, until they enter the void. And the void is that nothingness, that empty space, that is the I am presence, that is the I am that I am. And if you're feeling very disconnected, ungrounded, low, you can actually say that mantra, I am that I am. I am that I am that I am. And it's a very, very powerful way to reconnect with that pure source energy and to clear away all the other layers of excessive thoughts and get back into that singular pure focus. I am that I am. And you can say it as many times as you like. I am that I am that I am. I am that I am that I am. I am that I am that I am. And it's a lovely mantra to meditate on as well. It's very clearing of cobwebs in the consciousness. So I am states, I am everything and nothing. I am the nothingness and I am the everythingness. And that's what the first dimension is. So source as itself doesn't need to be aware of itself. But once it moves into the first dimension, it becomes, it's able to like look in the mirror and see itself and say, I am that I am. I am this consciousness that I'm seeing, okay? So in the second dimension, that's where source, so we have the first dimension and then that comes into a second dimension. And that's where source says, so what can I become now? If I am that I am, what can I now create? What is possible? Okay. So that's where source is able to see its own reflection and able to decide that it wants to play and co-create with itself. So it's like the question, the second dimension is the question, what can I create now? What can I become? How can I transform this consciousness? And that brings us into the third dimension. And in the third dimension, there is that distinct separation. Now, in the first dimension, there was separation, and then obviously in the second, then it's a difference, that's where the separation occurred. And when I'm talking about separation, if you do your research, you will see that a lot of the ancient texts talk about fallen angels, or, the removing from God, where in many religions it's interpreted as sin, that it's a sin that we left God, the fall from grace, fallen angels, Adam and Eve, leaving the garden, it's all symbolic of going into these other dimensions. But it's not, in truth, it's not sin. It's just exploration, and it's co-creation. So back to the third dimension. So we have that separation, and it's that further extension of, okay, how can I transform this energy now? What can I explore? How much into the dark can I go before I feel that magnetic pull back into the light? And it's a willingness, it's an openness to come into a physical time-space reality, zip on a physical suit of blood and bone, and create and co-create and explore all the possibilities of that. And as many as you know, I work with people in recovery from addiction. So I often say to them, your openness to exploring, to going down the non-trodden path, the path less traveled, was part of your soul bringing tremendous creation, tremendous possibility, and tremendous expansion back into the source energy. Because when we unzip from this blood and bone suit and we go back to source, there is a receiving back, and you bring back all the wisdom, the love, and the understanding that you had in your lifetime. So those souls that are very off the beaten track are actually very powerful souls, and they have powerful purpose in exploring what they explore, so that they can bring back a whole new perspective on the co-creation process, and on the understanding, and on love, and on the wisdom that they glean from having those really, really intense or dark experiences. So society has a very skewed idea if it judges people, if it judges the homeless guy, or if it judges the alcoholic, or judges the sex addict, because they have very negative judgments on that, because they don't understand that as a soul that you wanted to explore those things so that you could have a new perspective, a new understanding, and also a deeper experience of love. Because in order to go down that rabbit hole and to come back up into the light requires tremendous courage, faith, love, trust in the self, and trust in the universe. So many of these people are master souls, and that's what they chose because they knew the benefit of it, bringing that new faceted understanding back to source energy. Okay, so then we have the fourth dimension, which is like an amnesia and a playing out of what we decided to explore, to become, to play with, taking that consciousness and actually inhabiting what we created. So we create this persona, we create this identity, we create this role in this lifetime, and we can go into an amnesia about what that's about. Now, the amnesia actually came once the separation happens and we're going into second dimension, third dimension. The amnesia is there, you know. But in the fifth dimension, as I'll explain, the amnesia is no longer there. We're not asleep anymore, we're awake. So third dimension is very much asleep, although there are souls in the third dimension who are awake. But those who wake up in the third dimension will usually make trail a blaze path into the fifth dimension so that they are awake and aware of what they were going through in the third dimension, which is where many of humanity is at right now. So the fifth dimension is where we're able to look at the fourth dimension. We're able to recognize and understand why we chose to inhabit those roles, take on that personality, and have those experiences, the painful experiences, the joyful experiences, the experiences full of the darkness that brought us back into the light. We're able to digest, process, understand from this fifth dimensional perspective what was going on. We're able to look and say, so I became that angry person because such a thing happened in my childhood, or I lashed out at that person because they triggered things in me that I needed to heal, that were ready to come up to the surface for release. Or I got that illness to wake me and shake me out of my third dimensional sleep and amnesia so that I could wake up into the fifth dimensional perspective and understand that my life was, as a workaholic, was missing the point, and that I was actually missing out on being present in my life for myself, for my children, for my partner, for my family, whatever. These are just examples of how this consciousness works. Now, I want to say, you know, in 2016, 2017, some people had this idea that the fifth dimensional was a place we were going, and that maybe a spaceship was going to come down and take us all away and we go off to this magical paradise. And that's not what the fifth dimension is, as you can see now from your standpoint. The 5D is about a shift in consciousness. It's a different perspective. It's an understanding that the past had to happen to play out its co-creative free will, co-creative abilities to experience itself, so that source could come into, split off into different facets, like different facets on, if you look at a diamond shape, a real diamond, it has different cut points on it, okay? Different windows on it. They call it facets, okay? Faceted. And source is multifaceted. When it went into the second dimension, third dimension, it became more and more faceted so that it could experience itself in as many ways as possible. And because source gave itself free will, which is what we are extensions of that source with free will, we are then able to sign up in the non-physical for certain experiences so that it will help us expand, help us experience that particular experience, and help us evolve and understand and bring that new faceted perspective back to source. And by keeping that new experience flowing with the reincarnation, with the patterns that play out as we move up through the different dimensions, we're actually keeping the eternalness of creation going. Because in order for source to never be complete, it has to keep experiencing itself. It has to keep rejuvenating its free will, its freedom, and its ability to co-create. So the fifth dimension is the master level, but this is a myth that I want to clear up. In the fifth dimension, there's this idea that if you're in the 5D consciousness, that, you know, you're the master now, so everything's perfect and everything's wonderful and your life should be perfect. And that's just not true, because as I said, part of the deal of Source experiencing itself in a time-space reality is that it will have those challenges and obstacles to keep its co-creation fresh and new. Because if you're just sitting in the Garden of Eden holding hands and looking at the sunshine, there's no co-creation happening. It's what I find is when I'm explaining these things, I'm channeling, so there's tremendous amounts of downloads coming through into my thoughts, and I find it like my mouth, I can't actually keep up with the information that's coming in. So bear with me. And my throat's really dry. It's just, I'm so excited that I'm able to share this now with people who understand. I remember as a child having an understanding of it visually, like I could see the angels explain it to me, almost like on a blackboard, visually in diagrams and symbols, and I totally understood it. But it's wonderful to actually talk about this in a way now that, because I know that anyone watching this is in the 5D, so you understand it yourself, and you get it and you resonate, and it's great that we get to bounce these symbols and concepts and understandings off each other. So thank you for sharing this with me, and I really appreciate you being here. So the 5D, as I said, the myth that's there is that we think that because we're in 5D, that 3D is beneath us. We think that the dimensions are evolving in a linear fashion. And that's not true. It's not that the 5D is better than 3D. It's not. In fact, as a 5D consciousness, we need and look to the 3D to keep our expansion going. Because by looking at the 3D dimension, we're able to go, oh, I understand, or I observe, I witness this creation, and this adds to my consciousness, my thoughts expand, and then I'm able to co-create from that. So we'll take something really simple as an example of what I'm trying to explain here. Maybe by looking at something like seeing people be wasteful, okay? People wasting food in the 3D. People, the supermarkets have a lot of leftover food, okay? And in the 3D, it just goes and is dumped in the bin and put to waste. From the 5D perspective, we're able to say, oh, that's interesting. That's a waste of food, and there's a way to be more resourceful in this new earth, and we can create a food cloud, which is what people have done. I think it was two Irish young women in university that came up with the food cloud idea for Ireland, that they went around all the supermarkets that had leftover food, collected the food and gave it to the homeless, to charities, to the different places that need it. And where I work, as far as I know, I think they actually get some food from the food cloud as well. So it's brilliant idea. That is a fifth dimensional consciousness concept. And we needed the 3D to create from this point that and take that into a further expanded idea. So you see, it's all about thoughts, it's all about ideas, it's all about concepts, but it's about whatever facet, whatever standpoint you're at, whatever point of consciousness that you are perceiving, is how you will take that information and digest it and recreate it again into something through wisdom, understanding, and love. And that's how we perceive, and that's how we are, and that's what is the fifth dimensional consciousness. So it's not a place, it's not a planet out there, it's right here in this present moment where you are, and it's how you are responding in your thoughts to what you are perceiving. And that's what makes you a fifth dimensional master. So there are 5D masters all around you who, don't look like masters. They're they're quietly taking taking their 5D perception and turning the lower dense energies into something beautiful made of light. And those masters don't get that recognition, but we do exist, and I'm sure you're probably one of them. And please comment in the section below if you feel that you have mastered your 5D consciousness, because you're able to perceive life now through the eyes of source, through the eyes of love, and to understand that we get to create all these realities, and that we very much are co-creating and playing together and reflecting back to each other, and that in truth nothing is imposed upon us, and that we have our free will, and that yes, there will be challenges, obstacles, pain, suffering, but that we get to say from this understanding, from like looking through this 5D lens, we get to say what this means, and we get to bring that back to the expansion of source energy, which makes source energy eternal, infinite, and flowing. I hope this translates well for you, and I hope perhaps it brings some clarity if you are unsure about this fifth dimensional idea. I've got a really dry throat. I need to get a glass of water. So much love to you all. Happy December. Please give this video a thumbs up. It means a lot to me and to my soul team here that I'm working with. And subscribe and share, and see you soon.